Okay, hi. Good day, everyone. Welcome to the next installment of the webinar. Okay, here is Pacific University of Technology and Environment. Sorry, Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation. Together with us here is Mr. Premkumar Chandrashegaran, and he will be delivering a talk on the skills of the future, what you think you know, and what you actually must know. All right. So a little bit of description on today's webinar. Okay. Since we are currently living in a tough and challenging time, the world is no longer as how we used to know, right? And rapid changes are currently and will take place in the future. So it is either we prepare and equip ourselves with the relevant life skills, or we may be left behind. So let me just introduce a little bit about the speaker. Mr. Prem Kumar holds a Master of Science in Petroleum Engineering degree, okay, from Institute of Petroleum Engineering, Harriet Ward University, Malaysia. Harriet Ward University, Edinburgh in 2014. He obtained his bachelor's in electrical and electronics engineering, majoring in artificial intelligence and robotics from UNITEN, University Tenaga Nasional, Malaysia in 2010. He has an extensive experience as a practitioner and trainer in the area of data and analytics, as well as engineering, with a combined years of 10 years plus, okay, experience in the corporate and academic industry. Mr. Prem Kumar's focus areas are basically in education, energy, and healthcare, where he jointly co-founded the Oxygen Technologies to focus on this area. Aside from that, Mr. Prem Kumar also holds a post as a data science manager at a global Fortune 500 company, where he is heavily involved in delivery, planning, and strategizing the product plan for capability building, utilizing the latest technologies, especially focusing on data science and AI. So yeah, without further ado, let us start with the talk. So Mr. Prem Kumar, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Ailey. Hi everyone, good afternoon. So welcome and thank you for having me here, APU, and also the rest of you. So I'm just going to go through some of the objectives, right? So this is not going to be a heavy talk. I'm not going to show any technical part here, no mathematics, but just going to give you a very brief fundamentals on what you need to know and where we are actually heading to. So this is based on my experience hiring people and also interacting with a lot of people and looking at the current industry, where we are heading, both from the corporate side and also from the startup landscape. Yeah. So and also from the academic standpoint as well. So what you will actually learn is I'm going to talk about some key concepts of Industry 4.0, what are the current landscape and where we are heading to in terms of Industry 4.0. And of course, the needs and challenges to thrive in Industry 4.0. So when I talk about needs and challenges, what are the skills you require to thrive in Industry 4? And the last one, the essential skills needed. So I understand that all of us need to put food on our plate, and for that we need a job, or probably we need source of income. And to thrive in the future, we will need to be relevant in the future as well for us to be able to earn decent. So that is what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, and Ailey already introduced. I think she had done a great job. Thank you very much, Ailey, for introducing. And so that's my experience, professional wise, education, and also in terms of mentorship and seminars and talks. That is what I'm currently doing. So currently, I'm a mentor at Udacity. Also, occasionally, I do get invited to be a mentor from Startup Station Singapore. It's a Facebook initiative there, and etc. Okay, so this is part of Outlabs online series. So what Outlabs does is that it's a community event driven by passionate people to drive in Industry 4.0. So what we are trying to address is we are trying to address the on-demand skill sets, involving IoT, cloud computing, robotics, artificial intelligence, and big data, cybersecurity. So these are the crucial skills of the future from what we actually are looking at from our experiences. And of course, to empower Malaysia to become a tech-driven state, and finally, to share and exchange knowledge, because here in Outlabs, we don't just have one professional speaker. We have a community of speakers. I mean, we can have someone coming from different industries speaking, and that will benefit the entire community. So that is what we're trying to practice here. So just going to go through some brief introduction here. So here we are again in another industrial revolution. But before we begin, let's say if you have any, if the slide is not clear or something, just or if I'm lagging or something, please do let me know. Yeah, Ailey.
Yes, sure, will do.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we are in another industrial revolution, and we are also in a global crisis or a global pandemic era, whereby here we are facing lack of talents. Yes, we are seeing companies laying off talents, but then at the same point also we are seeing lots of mismatch in skills in terms of talent development. Next one is there are rapid changes in terms of technology, and I'm going to talk about that in a while. Next, we need more investment. So when I say more investment, I'm talking about investments in terms of how businesses will thrive in the future. Like for example, we need more investment in other areas compared to the current investment landscape. There is a time constraint to actually hit the market as well because of the rapid changes that is actually happening. We don't have that much of time to actually address. For example, we are in a state where we need to address this global crisis of coronavirus immediately, or else we'll be facing major economic crisis. That is one thing. And secondly, also in terms of, for example, the global warming situation, we do not have that much of time to actually take to liberty. We need to address that quickly. And finally, also most businesses and as well as people out there, they are facing heavy competition among one another. So because we're in a university right now, I'm talking to APU. So I just prepared this slide as well for fresh graduates, right? What are the problems? So this is based on MOH's Ministry of Higher Education's survey. What are the problems that fresh graduates are facing? Yeah. So the reason for unemployment, the main problem over here is they're still looking for a job, and we speak to companies, they say they don't have enough talents. So that means there is a clear mismatch between the graduates' skills and what is out there in the market. So, and then you can see like there are other reasons here. The next biggest reason is probably family responsibility. They're taking a break from study. So yeah, so these are some of the problems they're actually facing. And in terms of employers, they find it very expensive to advertise on platforms. But this is one of the main thing, right? So the circle, the bigger the circle, the bigger the problem. So this is again based on feedback from companies. They find it hard to find quality talents, hard to replace highly skilled jobs. So I'm talking about the jobs that require high skill set. Like for example, you're talking about sales job or something that is, I wouldn't say it's easily replaceable, but that doesn't require so much of technical skills. It's more like an EQ skill. But then when you talk about technical skill, it is very hard to replace low turnover jobs. So, and then hard to get local talents and also resumes to filter, right? And in terms of candidate Spain, they're not given enough opportunity to showcase their talent. I'm sure some of you may feel this as well as students. You may feel that you're not given an opportunity to actually go out there and shine. You're unable to take up expensive paid courses to gain skills. This is also another big hurdle, right? Because you've just spent probably a dime to do your university degree, probably about 50, 60K, or probably even more to do your university degree. And then after that, you won't be it's not relevant to actually spend another fortune again to actually take up more courses. Also, no clear vision on actual skills needed in the industry, and technology is growing so fast and it's hard to keep up. So these are some of the problems, right, that the workforce generation is actually facing. But looking at the current one, talent is hard to find. Remote work is more common. This is from Upwork's report over here. And remote work is seen as a future. But you can see this is a 2018 research, okay? But this is definitely already happening right now because of another driven factor, which is COVID. So COVID is actually pushing remote work to become more apparent. So more people are actually working remotely. Like, for example, if there wasn't any COVID situation right now, I will be in front of you in a classroom or probably in a lecture theater speaking to you. But because of this COVID situation, we're actually interacting via a remote communication via webcam instead. So this is where we're actually heading to. So of course, you do have all of this, yeah, and we may think that this is actually a thing of norm in the future. But again, to actually drive all of this technology in the future, remote workforce and remote working and etc., you need technologies and you need skills to actually drive this entire thing, right? So these items are definitely more relevant in the recent crisis. And pressures of digital future, 50% of current activities are technically automatable, right? And current occupations have more than 30% activities that are automatable. So I'm going to talk about automation in a while later, but just briefly, what automation is whatever a human is doing again and again, okay? If that is a very mundane and a repetitive task that can be automated, okay, or that can be done by a machine. Okay, we can just program the machine to actually do that again and again. That will give less error, okay, compared to a human counterpart, and also it's going to be cheaper and more efficient in the longer run. So companies, they are actually feeling this, especially during the COVID era, and they are forcing a major change. I mean, the nature is actually forcing a major change. And I can say from the corporate perspective, companies are already looking to bring down the number of staffs and bring up the number of machines in the workforce. So when I say bring up the number of machines, that means bring up the number of computers who's going to take over the human jobs. Okay, because it's a one-time investment and it's a cheaper solution. The reality now, these are some of the impact of COVID. You can see here the price of crude oil. We are still impacted, as Malaysia is an oil-producing country, and we are impacted definitely in terms of the economy-wise, or rather, in some time in the future, we may feel the impact, right? And you can see here, HSBC is laying off staffs. Emirates has already cut down jobs. Virgin Airlines, if you remember, had gone bankrupt. Genting is expected to cover 20% of workforce. And these are all you can see in some of these industries. Some industries are really badly impacted. But nevertheless, there are jobs. This is LinkedIn's opening as of today. So I went in just before this talk here, and I tried looking for vacancies in the Industry 4.0, IR 4.0 landscape. Yeah, you can see in the area of data scientists, cloud computing, and also machine learning, artificial intelligence, there are lots of vacancies. This is just from the first page alone. And cybersecurity also, in terms of cybersecurity, there are lots of vacancies out there. And in terms of IT programming and technology teacher, everything, there are also lots of vacancies. And the problem with these vacancies, as I said, there's going to be a mismatch of talent because we do not have, Malaysia or probably even in the world, we do not have enough talents to fill this gap. Okay, so if you as a student or actually probably as a young working adult, if you can actually upskill yourself or probably take up something, you will be able to fill in these roles. And even those who have lost their jobs, you definitely do have another door opening out there. Okay, so moving on. So what we saw earlier was the industries that are badly impacted, right? We are seeing that the tourism and also aviation, they are badly impacted. Nobody's actually traveling. Nobody is really going for vacation. I mean, like, even if you ask me, even if I want to go for a vacation, I am a bit skeptical. I am a bit more careful than how I used to be in the past, right? And I'm sure some of you may feel the same, but probably some of you may even think that, yeah, you only live once, you might as well do it, kind of stuff. But then a lot of them, majority of them, they are very cautious in the current era. So in that case, tourism and leisure, aviation, maritime, automotives, people are not driving much. They're not buying newer cars. Like, for example, I think Volkswagen the other day actually announced that, they are recording a major loss. Okay, construction and real estate, manufacturing, financial services, and also education sector. It's partly on the potential loss to potential winner side because of all of these remote technologies that is taking place, right? And also the newer technologies. So if education sector or probably universities or colleges are still stuck in the old ways of teaching, they probably will be left behind as well. Oil and gas is somewhere in the middle. There are somewhere between potential losers and potential winners. This is because if you actually look at it, oil and gas, they're facing two major crises. Number one is the competition against renewable energy in terms of carbon footprint. And number two is on the current global crisis in terms of demand, oil demand. People are not traveling, no flights flying, and all of that. So less demand, and also competition in terms of cleaner energy and more sustainable energy. But nevertheless, the dependency on gas will not die off anytime soon. So this will still be there, but won't be as good as any time in the past. And what are the thriving ones? The winners are definitely medical supply and services. One thing, if you actually notice, healthcare will never die off. Okay, whether it's the current era, COVID, or any era, right? Healthcare, fitness, all of these industries will never die off. But again, as I'm talking about, yes, we do have a very high demand for doctors right now. But then even in the future, you may have like probably doctors just working remotely and just getting a robot to probably do, uh, some operation in the OT room later. Food processing and retail is going to be another industry that will not die off. IT, ICT, technology, e-commerce, agriculture, so these are all winners in the current era. So these are the areas or the area where, in the future, we will be seeing a major thrive, whereby these sectors over here will face some challenges. Okay. And in terms of the skills outlook, 2022 skills outlook, so this is from World Economic Forum, and this is based on report in 2018, and this is still holding true. If you come to think about what are the growing and declining sides, right? So for the growing skills needed is number one is definitely you need someone. Okay, even if I have a company right now, if I'm going to hire someone, I need someone who's able to think independently, who's able to analyze the situation, and also can learn on the go. Because as we saw before, technologies are changing rapidly, so you need to be able to learn on the go. There's no more saying, you know what, I've done my degree, 4 years is done. I've done my master's. That's it. I'm not going to learn anymore. I'm not going to study anymore. You are no more in that era. Probably our parents, they can probably say that because life back then was much more static compared to now. Now we are living in a dynamic world, it changes very rapidly. So we need active learners, those who can just pick up skills as we go, right? So you need creativity. You need to be able to design technology, programming. So this is actually very critical skill as well. Problem solving, emotional intelligence is also very important. I see most graduates, though you are inclined technically, but then Some of you may not be able to work in a team environment. You not be able to handle stakeholders. So that is also something that those newcomers need to address. And some of the declining technology, like for example, declining skill set is technology use, monitoring and control, visual auditory, management personnel. So this skill set will be on the declining side. Again, if you actually come to think about this two growing and declining, if you can see, growing side is where you will need to know the general aspect. For example, you will need to do programming. You should be able to pick up as you go and all of that. And then the declining side, if you are just learning one software, like for example, you are totally dependent on, for example, Microsoft Excel. You know the technology. You say you're super good in that. You are actually highlighting that in your resume and all of that. That will not be as attractive as you telling that, okay, I know this, but I can also learn this. Okay, I have the capacity to actually learn these multiple softwares. So if you actually say that, you are going to sell yourself even more. Okay, comparing to you saying, okay, you know what, I'm good with this technology, this is it, and then you rate yourself probably the scale of 10 for everything. Okay. Also on the landscape side, so these are the top 10 emerging jobs. So as you can see, data analysts and data scientists, AI, machine learning engineers, these are always going to be in demand for at least another 10 years. Okay, for the next 10 years, because we are seeing a lot of knowledge gap or skills gap, we will see a lot of demand for data scientists and AI engineers. Okay, some of the other skill set, if you can see, software developers, big data specialists, operation managers, like for example, product managers, etc. New technology specialists, information technology services. So we can see all of these revolve around the technology side, or some of you may say the IT side or the computer side, but the right term for this is technology. Okay, we are actually heading to a world where if you don't know how to use computer, you're no longer relevant, right? So that is where we're going to head in the future. If you don't know how to program, or if you don't know how to code, you will not be relevant in the future. Okay, wherever you are, whether you're in the law school, you're in a healthcare, you're learning engineering or anything, you need to know how to do some coding. Okay. And at the rate of automation, this is what I mentioned just now, the division between labor as a share of hours spent, right? Human versus machine. So in 2018, we saw 71% of human workforce and 29% of machine. By 2022, it's going to be 58 to 42. And this, if you can see, is based on a 2018 research by World Economic Forum. But at the current landscape, COVID and Corona is actually is driving automation even more. So by right, 2022 numbers will be driven more by machine. I would say it will be 50-50 by 2022. Okay, so this is where you don't need to think that, oh my God, okay, I'm going to lose my job. Oh, I'm not going to have any job when machine takes over. It's not that's not the case, and that is not the objective as well of corporate companies. What they want is people who can help to program these machines, who will be able to monitor these machines. So if you lose the human job over here, you can take over as a machine administrator, or you can take over as a missions manager, or etc. Okay, so that is where the world is actually heading to. So will this be the future? Let's say, for example, you're going for a date, and then your neural network predicts that you are both compatible. I mean, it is, whether it's future or already a current landscape. Okay, it is I think current landscape, because this is true in terms of some of the apps that we use out there. Like for example, Facebook uses this, Instagram uses this, Tinder uses this, and some of the new dating apps, they use machine learning and also artificial intelligence to predict compatibility, okay, between one person and another. Same goes to Netflix, yeah. So when you open Netflix or even YouTube, how do you know what kind of recommendation or what kind of movies that you want to watch? Because it actually pops up there, and the pop outs is normally based on some of the algorithms that are working behind, based on whatever you have watched in the past. It uses those memory, okay, it uses those features to actually devise, okay, what you will be interested or inclined in watching. So that is where we're actually heading to, yeah. And Malaysia actually cannot afford to lag in a world facing swift exponential change driven by technological innovation. So this is by the Star in recent article, and this is the real facts of our current advancement. We can actually reverse paralysis by using brain implants, using some nanotechnology. Uh, Self-driving trucks and self-driving cars. This is via deep reinforcement learning and an area within artificial intelligence, and also by using intelligent sensors. Paying with your face, it is already happening. That means we are already using, for example, Apple Pay to actually unlock our machine, to unlock our phone, to pay. Practical quantum computers. So another area that will be thriving, definitely thriving in the future, is quantum physics or quantum computing or anything to do with quantum mechanics, etc. So if anyone is interested in learning quantum, you can just go up and uh, Google for. So Google has this quantum division. Okay, you can just go and Google for quantum computing. Google, and they have their own page for that. 360-degree selfie, we will no more be in the era where we only have a single selfie. I think Facebook is already implementing a 3D image. So this is what it is: 360-degree hot solar cells in terms instead of just solar powered cells, like semiconductor solar cells. And then we may have the gene therapy as well. Next one is our cell atlas. We will know what we actually made of just by looking at the cells. So this is another mega project that is actually using artificial intelligence to actually decode the robots of things. Instead of humans controlling the robots, you can just program one major robot or one master robot, which will control the rest of the smaller robots in a home, for example. And reinforcement learning. So this is what I said, one area of AI where it uses the same principle of how a human being would learn something with the principle of reinforcement. Like for example, if a child makes a mistake, you will give it some penalty. You will give the baby some penalty, or probably even the child some penalty or some punishment, so that it actually learns not to do the same mistake again. So same goes to this AI technology as well. It learns through reinforcement learning, and this is a very advanced technology where you can see. In terms of video game performance, it's really thriving against the best human performers. And some of the other technologies that are mind-boggling, Google's DeepMind, a self-walking robot simulator without any sort of input from the programmers, and this is that. Okay, this is the simulation that they have done. And another one is so computers are actually communicating in another language. So technically, they're using English words to communicate with each other, but humans can't understand that. Because of the ways the words were arranged were different. So they were learning new language, and what happened was that the programmers had to shut it down and just disconnect that immediately before it starts learning and do something major. So this is where we're actually heading to, right? So the future may look very interesting for those who are in this technology side. But for those who are still very skeptical to learn all of this, it'll be very difficult for you. And in terms of industrial revolution, so when we talk about IR 4.0, what is it, right? So we are in the when we talk about industrial revolution 1, so that is where we introduce mechanical production machines powered by probably water and steam. And then in the second industrial revolution was where we started having mass production lines. We had started having factories, and electricity to actually start having some assistance from robots. And the third one is where we started using IT extensively and some programming part, where, like, for example, this one uses a PLC, programming logic controller, programmable logic controller to actually control and build something. And finally, the fourth industrial revolution is based on cyber physical systems, whereby we don't need to actually tell the robot what to do. It will just learn from its past experience, like how a human would learn. So that is where we are right now. If you actually look back, what didn't exist in 2006, and right now it is, everybody knows this: iPhone, iPad, 4G, Uber, Airbnb, Android, WhatsApp, Instagram, Oculus technology. So these are all new technology that did not exist 10 years, probably even 15 years ago. And if you look at the time it takes to reach 100 million customers, for telephone to reach 100 million customers, it took it 75 years. For website or internet to reach 100 million, it took 7 years. But if you look at Instagram or even Pokemon Go, okay, or like for example Fortnite and PUBG, it takes it took about less than a month to reach 100 million customers. So that is where technology is really helping people or even businesses to reach customers faster. And in terms of the building blocks of IR 4.0, big data analytics and autonomous robots, together with cybersecurity and IoT, Internet of Things. So these are closely related to each other. Okay, the rest of the technology, like for example, augmented reality, additive manufacturing, simulation, or even horizontal and vertical system integration. These are independent blocks, but these four blocks over here, they are very much interrelated, and you can see jobs in this area pretty much. You'll see a lot of jobs that are interrelated in this area. And you can see that United Nations has also come up with sustainable development goals. So these are some of the development goals that we want to go into by the time we reach 2030. And industry, innovation, infrastructure, sustainable cities and communities. We want to have no poverty, clean energy, gender equality, quality education. But besides that, all of this is actually driven by the passion for innovation by people, right? We are going to an era whereby we are not just, I'm not going to say that technology is going to be the main driver here, but the main driver is going to be you as a human. You have to be passionate enough to innovate. We are no longer in the era where you just apply whatever you learn in the university, or probably a corporate company will just come and tell you, okay, you know what, this is the standard operating procedure. Step one, you do this. Step two, you do this. Step three, you do this. You're no longer going to be following rule by rule. It's no more rule based. It's by innovation. We have to start using our brains to actually think and innovate something new. So those who innovate will thrive. Those who fail to innovate will be left behind in the future. So this is based on my experience and based on me speaking and mentoring a lot of startups and also people, right? And also some of the jobs that did not exist. We can see here app developer, machine learning engineer, all of this did not exist 10 years ago. So these are all innovative jobs. If you look at this, these are all driven by innovation. Uber was driven by innovation because someone thought that why must we depend on taxi? Why can't we have taxi on demand? Same goes to Airbnb, hotel on demand, YouTube creators, drone operators. So these are all driven by innovation. So that is why I said that innovation is going to be the key. And some of the impacts, right? We can see in terms of national, global, the individual, society. In terms of society, we are going to face major challenge in terms of inequality and community-wise. because you can see in some parts of the world, we, like for example, in Malaysia or even Southeast Asia, we're a bit lucky because we do have access to good education and good accessibility in terms of electricity, etc. Technology. But if you look at some areas, some other countries, they do not have this access. So this accessibility will actually create inequality, and also in terms of national and global, how governments are going to handle this, how countries, regions, and cities are going to handle this, and in terms of international security. Because when, like for example, when borders become closed because of this remote working, etc., how is security going to be impacted? So that security is no more physical security; it's going to be cyber security instead. Okay, and next one is going to be on the individual, right? On your identity, on your morality, on your ethics. How will individuals react in a newer world where they have to work closely with machines? Some of them may lose jobs, and how are they going to thrive now? Especially in this scenario when a lot of people are actually losing jobs. Um, I can say that police forces are even more wary of the number of increase in crime cases, because when people become desperate to eat, to actually feed their family, you may see an increase in number of criminals out there. So this is again comes down to morality and ethics, and also human connection part. So these are some of the impacts that we are seeing right now. Okay, and you can say that by 2022, okay, that's just 2 years away, we will need an extra 101 days of learning in a year to be able to thrive. So how are you going to manage this besides our daily activity and all of that? That totally depends. But I can, or even learning a new skill. So that is what I do on my personal side, and that has paid off for me. So that is one thing I can tell you that you should do as well. Okay. So coming down, and I'm going to break down some of the technologies or some of the pillars of IR 4.0, like I mentioned just now. Nothing technical, just going to give you a basic introduction. Number one is IoT. What is IoT? Examples of IoT, yeah? Like for example, Philips lighting. Okay, you can just control with your phone. Medtronic, or even some of the wearables. Like for example, what I heard from the recent announcement by Apple, they may include glucose detection. Was it Apple or some other um, wearable technology that they will include glucose detection? Okay, just by just wearing a watch, you can detect your blood glucose. And next one is Ralph Lauren. No more wearable in terms of watches or something. Now you can wear a T-shirt that gives you indication of of your whereabouts, etc. And another one is your tennis racket handle that gives different senses to connectivity. And another example is, if you guys follow football in terms of English Premier League, some of the players, if you remember, if you watch them during training time, they will be wearing this some sort of a wearable device that looks like a sleeveless top. Okay, and that is actually measuring their heartbeat at all times, so that the sports nutritionists and scientists will be able to tell them, what you are, the player is performing at the max or not. So those are some of IoT, right? And in terms of property development, city management, public services, smart transport, smart living, and also smart factories, you will be able to use all of these sensors there. What is IoT? So Internet of Things. That is the a long abbreviation for this. It's a network of physical objects, right? You can have devices, vehicles, buildings, or other items embedded electronics. If you come to think about it, okay, so you can see these robots communicating with each other in Terminator. And where is IoT? This is everywhere. That technology that we are using right now in terms of wearable tech, our phone itself is an IoT device because it's connected. It's connected all the time. It's connected to the internet. Smart appliances, healthcare. So this is IoT. Okay. Next one, we want to go into the next technology of IR 4.0, next pillar, which is cloud computing. Probably I'm just going to just skip that. So cloud computing here, in this case, it's going to be referred to as the cloud. Okay, it's a delivery on demand for computing resources. Okay, and here when we talk about cloud computing, you have three different landscape. Number one is elastic resource. You can scale up or down quickly and easily meet demand. Okay, when I say scale up or down, it's like, for example, let's say you're using a computer to process a video. Okay, let's say you're watching a movie, or let's say if you're playing video game on your computer. Okay, and your computer does not have enough graphic power to process that particular video game. So what you do is you may want to procure a computer that is sitting remotely in a cloud, okay, which is technically in a data center, and you may want to get the graphics card. Just want to borrow the graphics card. That is possible, okay. So that is an example of cloud computing application. Another one is, you have metered service, so you only pay for what you use. Okay, you don't just pay it for, you don't need to buy a computer, you don't need to buy a graphics card. Let's say, for example, you're just going to use the graphics card for the period of you playing the video game, you just paid during that time. Okay. And next one is a self-service thing. All the IT resources you need within self-service access. Most of it is divided into either IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. So these are industry standard abbreviations that I'm using here. Yeah, like for example, SaaS, SaaS is a software as a service. It ranges from hosted applications, development tools, operation systems, servers and storage, network and data center. Platform as a service is everything but hosted application, whereby when you say infrastructure as a service, you can imagine it only has infrastructures, physical devices, like for example, servers, storage, data center, and also networking firewalls. And you may know this or you may not, but these are some of the big cloud providers, the all-rounders. And these are some of the companies that are also hiring heavily in terms of cloud practitioners and also those who can apply their knowledge. Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, IBM, Alibaba Cloud, etc. So that is cloud computing. The next one is going to be RPA, or robotic automation, robotic process automation. When you see robots so in Amazon warehouse, for example, from 2013 to 2016, you can see there's an exponential increase in terms of number of robots working. And the main objective of AI advancement or robotic advancement is to reduce human interaction with machines and increase human interaction with humans. Like, for example, the jobs that require human touch, like, for example, healthcare, education. So these are the two industries that we can really use machines to actually take over the parts where you can reduce teachers interacting with computers, like for example to build slides, to mark papers and etc. You can just give it to a machine, let machine handle that, and teachers will just need to focus a lot more on individual students. There'll be a better interaction between teachers there. So teacher and student. So this is where some of the objective of the recent Industry 4.0 is not to replace humans in any way, but just to, take the redundant part of human working with machines and replace replace that with a human to human interaction, and to also increase efficiency and reduce human error, right? Potential applications of robotics, robotic process automation is where we have robot assisted production, we have predictive maintenance, additive manufacturing, machines as a service, production line simulation, smart supply network. And when we talk about automation, right, what is RPA? RPA is actually an innovative use of software, okay, to aid human workers. So when I say that, it's whenever we have lots of redundant work or repetitive work, 45% of all work can be automated. This is via research, right? And a lot of money can be saved. Like you can see, in this case, $2 trillion, okay, can be saved in workforce spending. And the number of jobs that can be robotized is about 25%. Okay, so and how it works is that, like for example, it doesn't really change anything on the IT infrastructure. No changes to actually actual interface. Just that, for example, let's say I am here and I'm typing an email every morning to the same person. Okay, so that is a redundant work, a repetitive work. So robot can be programmed to take over my job of sending email to this particular person. Let's say if I'm sending a report email every morning, a robot can actually do that every morning at a particular time. Just that. And just by doing that, it saves 30 minutes of my time. And when it saves 30 minutes of my time, it I can actually use this 30 minutes to do something else more innovative. So that is the idea there. Okay, and there are robot revolution already happening. For example, you have humanoid robots, stationary robots, aerial and underwater robots, and also non-humanoid land robots. But when most of us speak about robots, we tend to think of terminators, or even we tend to think that you need to have a shape like this, or even underwater robots that are actually moving, or etc. That is not always the case. You can have robots that are just software. So that is a robotic process automation there. Okay. So that is on the RPA side. The next one is AR, augmented reality. So that's another technology that is also thriving. When we see AR, you can see here the diagram on the left. You may think that this red lines here, the pipe is actually through, but it's not. It is just a virtual thing. It's an augmented pipe. This is just to see if in a landscape, or let's say in a factory, engineers want to build pipes, okay, and designers want to put in a pipe. They can just put in this in an augmented reality, and they can see how much space it actually takes up. Okay, even IKEA released an app where if you have a home and you want to, let's say, if you want to buy a sofa or any furnitures, you can use the app to actually place a particular furniture, and actually can tell you how much space it actually takes without even buying the furniture and coming. So that is where augmented reality can really help, right? um, but the history of AR, it is not new. It's an old technology in 1968, and the idea behind 3D display is what is the one that actually propelled AR's innovation, right? And the future of AR, you never know. We have like for example Google and even Apple competing on augmented reality glasses. Like for example, this is Google's Project Glass, and even Apple had recently announced to actually release Apple Glass this year, but because of COVID, it got stopped. And this is actually actual image of Apple Glass. Imagine you just wearing this instead of your phone, and you can already see all of this on your eye. And with your iPhone, you can just pair your Apple glasses. So that is where we're actually heading to, right? And just by looking at this, if you can actually think about it, it's again innovation. And we need innovative people to actually work on this. Just by releasing all of this technology, if no one is there to actually maintain or even support these technologies, you are going to face a world where there's going to be one area where there's going to be lots of technology changes, and another area where there are just going to be end users, but these end users are not going to be helping out in the development anymore. Okay, so that is why you really need to be very innovative in the future. Next one is additive manufacturing, 3D printing. This is 2D printing. Old days, so you can only print on the 2D landscape, probably X and Y. But in terms of 3D printing, like for example, let's say you have this drawing out of AutoCAD. You can just feed that drawing into the robot, and the robot will probably just print that out. But of course, there are going to be challenges, right? Because it will be very slow, of course, and also you will need the right material to actually print it out like that. But there are also advantages where you can design what you print, and you can just come up with prototypes immediately. Like for example, this is an example of a 3D printed assisted chair, and there's going to be freedom of you designing. You don't have some limitations on what you can actually manufacture, and a geometric freedom as well. Even low volume manufacturing can be actually done. Like for example, 3D printing. What I heard or read in recent articles is that in terms of shopping, this will help out um, to carve more individual customized products. Because right now you do see lots of mass manufacturing or mass product. Like for example, if you want to manufacture a single case like this versus this, there's going to take a lot of changes in terms of the mold and in terms of the programming of the robot, etc. Okay, right now, if you want to do it, but with 3D printing, you can do this and also this with the same cost. So that will probably propel individual craftsmanship even more. But there are challenges, especially right now. Limited and high cost of materials. There's unreliability of machines. In terms of speed and challenges to speed up technology, mechanical properties, surface finish, resolution, etc. But always, this is one thing that I like to remind all of my students, or even anything, even my those who are working with me, right? Always, when you see challenges, that is where you should see opportunities as well. So yes, this is a challenge currently, but if you can solve any one of these problems right now, you will be the next big thing. Okay, so that is why always look at challenges. Okay, the current challenges, like for example, whatever we're facing right now with the technology. Like if you say speed is a problem, solve that. If you see limited and high cost of material is a problem, go and solve that. And when you actually solve that with an innovative idea, you will be able to actually see things in a different way. The next one, yes, we are dealing with all of these IoT, AI, and all of these things, but then you will have problem if you don't have security, cyber security. When we say cyber physical systems, these are composed of physical entities and controlled and monitored by computer-based algorithms. Literally means it's an IoT device. Okay, any Internet of Things that are actually interconnected, they are cyber physical systems. Like for example, you can have pacemakers, insulin pumps, automobiles. All of these are actually known as cyber physical. And are we really prepared in terms of going into IR 4.0? IR 4.0 will not be a reality until and only until we solve all of these cybersecurity problems. Okay, like for example, if you actually are building a AI robot, or let's say if you're building a self-driving car, if the car is not secured, or if any hacker can actually hack into the car, then the security of the passengers will be at stake. Okay, so this is where cybersecurity experts are really in demand right now, because you probably every month or so we are seeing attacks from major companies. Banks are getting attacked, even some of the data breaches, and like for example, all these PDPA rules, GDPR rules, and European rules, etc. European security rules in terms of using their private information, privacy, data privacy, etc. So these are all revolving around cybersecurity. So if you can actually learn up cybersecurity and be an expert in it, you will be in demand. It is really important because of all of these numbers, right? There are 4.3 million phishing attempts in an hour, and also 1.8 million malware attacks in an hour. 75% of UK SME companies report breaches. 20% of all attacks target SMEs. Even whatever you and I are using right now, our iPhone, and even this presentation that I'm actually using, if we may be at stake of a hacker trying to hack in and just get in some information. But because some of these things are secured on the back end by the companies who are actually sponsoring this, we are probably secure right now. But then that is very important that we know what are the breaches and what are some of the malware's threat, etc. Okay, so and next one is AI, data science. So this is probably one of the key areas of current Industry 4.0, because you have all of this data that you gather from sensors, and then you need to be doing something with it, right? So this is the field of study that actually gives the computer the ability to learn without telling it what to do, without having an if and else. I'm going to talk about that. What is AI over here? So most of the time we get confused. Okay, there's AI, artificial intelligence. People are talking about machine learning, and there's also deep learning. So when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence is the outer ball. It is not a new field. It's been out there since the 1960s. Okay, like for example, when they first came up with the Atari video game where we play Pac-Man, etc. Okay, so this was where AI was actually very famous. Okay, we just use less data but lots of mathematical algorithm. And then in early 2000s, when we had increase of computer power and we had lots of data generated, that was where machine learning became, or machine learning algorithms proved to be more effective compared to general artificial intelligence. And in recent years, when the number of data tripled or even multiplied by multiple folds, and our computers became more powerful with probably 8 to 10 number of cores, and we had like more GPUs, etc. This is where deep learning, okay, or deep neural network became very, very famous. And because of this deep learning is where we have Siri on our iPhone, where we have voice assisted control. We have chatbots. We have, for example, human visions, or like for example, playing with your phone, and all of that is possible because of this deep learning. Okay, so these are some of the technologies within artificial intelligence. And for example, how we actually apply this is, say, for example, we want to detect a credit card fraud. Yeah, so the picture on top here is a credit card, and just say this is a thief who wants to take up credit card information. As a human, how would we do it? We would probably look at all of these transactions that have actually happened, and we would label one by one as fraud or not fraud, etc. Right? But if you want to do this again and again, it's going to be redundant. But just by telling the machine, or just by feeding all of this data into the machine, like probably about 285,000 rows of data of what is good and what is bad, the machine will be able to get the statistical pattern. And in the future, once you give in a new data set, it will automatically be able to tell whether this credit transaction is faulty or not. So typically, that is how machine learning works in a very simple form. Okay. And if you want to talk about traditional programming versus machine learning, we can talk about this, right? You have a human and you want this machine to actually identify this human. Using traditional programming, how would you detect this human? You would probably tell, okay, you know what, if you detect this hair and you detect the beard, and if the eyes and nose is as that, there's a lot of if hair is like that, if beard is like this, and if you see these eyes are brown, etc., you say that this person is, say, for example, John. Okay, the person's name is John, and if it meets all of these criteria, you label that as John. But let's say tomorrow John had decided to remove his beard and his hair, and he goes bald, right? The machine will not be able to detect that anymore because it misses the two ifs. No hair, no beard, so it won't be detected. But on the other hand, machine learning, how it works is it works in a similar manner as a human. How we human will identify another person is just by looking at a certain feature, like important features, like for example, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And again and again, when we look at the same person, okay, we will be able to detect, okay, this is John. So same thing, we just have to feed a lot of images into this machine, and it will just pick up vital information from the pixel, each pixel, and from that he will be able to detect John even if he removes his hair and his beard easily. So that is what I said about, you don't need to tell the machine what to do, it just learns from patterns. So that is machine learning. The application is vast. You can use it in real estate to predict loan defaults, property management, in telco, for telecommunication, for uh, to improve services, for marketing, for medical, for manufacturing, for energy. You can use it in any area. Okay, so this is why I said you will have, like in APU itself, you will have engineers, you will have IT people, and you may have like engineers coming in from civil engineering, petroleum engineering, electrical engineering, etc. You can use it in any way. You can use it in any industry as long as you know how to use data. So this is where, in the future, you need all of these people who need to use how to use data science. But at the same time, it's not that, you need to just learn data science and ignore all other subjects. Like, for example, you don't need to learn telco or marketing or something. I'm not saying that. You still need to know some of the basics of those industries, like, for example, telecommunication, etc., because you need to know how to deal with the data. Okay. And in terms of data science jobs, you can say that this is, some companies say that this is the sexiest job of the 21st century and hottest jobs. And I actually showed you just now, when you go to LinkedIn, a lot of companies actually opening up jobs for data science, and demand will outpace supply, and it's already outpaced supply. A lot of companies actually looking for data scientists, and we don't have enough data scientists out there. We don't have enough programmers out there. And while there's demand, you can also demand for higher paycheck. Okay, if you are scarce, because of the because of the simple demand supply curve, when the demand is high and the supply is low, normally the prices are high. So that is the reality right now. But as the demand and supply almost matches, then probably the pay scale will actually go down. So probably this is a very good time for you to pick up some of these skills. Okay, it requires skills within computer science and IT. That means when I say computer science and IT, you must know some programming, not not the major ones. You need to know some level. You need to know some maths and statistics, and you need to know the business knowledge. So this is a combination of all three for you to be thriving in AI and also data science. And in terms of data tools itself, right? How many do you think there is? There are a lot of tools right there. So these are all the tools within data science. So this is why I said, don't just focus on tools, or don't just focus on software. Focus on a general knowledge, okay, where you'll be able to pick up on the go. Because if you go to company A might be using some technology, okay, and when you go from company A to company B will be using another technology. But if you're just memorizing whatever buttons are in one particular tool or software, you won't be able to use the same application when you switch jobs. So this is where you must just know the general side and have a very high sense of curiosity for you to be able to pick up on the go. So before I actually end this, just like to know some self-reflection. Just reflect yourself. How many of you know this? All of these words down here: Java, Python, C++, C, PHP, Ruby. So these are many programming languages out there. If you know at least one or two of them, when I say know, not just by word or not just heard about it, if you know how to program in one of these languages, that means you're good. Okay, but if you don't, then I won't say that, because I won't say everyone is computer literate. Not everyone is actually very inclined to writing programs and all of that. But it's the same thing that goes down to mathematics and English back in high school, right? If someone doesn't know mathematics and someone doesn't know English back then, what would you do? You won't just say, okay, I don't think you're inclined towards mathematics, or I don't think you're inclined towards English. You don't say that. You still force them to learn mathematics and English, because you know that without these two, they won't be able to survive in this world. Right? So same thing goes to this right now. Even if you don't like it, you have to learn it. You don't have a choice. You have to learn at least one or two, because this will be the skills of the future, right? And as universities, so these are some of the roles that universities play, right? You need to know, you need to make programming as a core module for all disciplines, and instill critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, instead of just for example, memorizing. Focus more on creativity, etc. And I'm sure that APU is already doing this, and restructure all educational contents to incorporate digital technology, establish strong working relationships with the industry, and if possible, make entrepreneurship as a core module. Why I say this is because entrepreneurship drives innovation. And when you have innovative people coming out of college, that will really propel someone to excel in the future, and have strong working relationship with tech startups as well. But as an individual, okay, your role and next steps is to learn some programming language. Okay, you can just pick up anything as you go. And from my personal experience, I would say pick up C language or Python programming. Okay, try to work on part-time projects during your free time after classes, as it will improve your skills. Okay, rather than spending times on video games or etc., work on some part-time projects. Spend an hour or two. That will really change your life. Come and join startups or internships. Read a lot of latest happenings. Learn more than just your core syllabus, and embed design thinking to solve some real world problems. Yeah. So these are, like, for example, within Outlabs, these are some of the courses we have. Like, for example, when I say IR 4.0 is what we're actually focusing on, within this, we know that programming language is one of the most important thing. Okay, so that is why we are actually emphasizing on Python. Okay, because Python is actually very easy language for any beginners to actually learn. And because of the current landscape and all that, we are actually doing this via web conference. You will be learning all of the essential Python, like for example, data types, collection, indexing. And with this, you will be able to actually use to write programs. And just by learning Python alone, the opportunity for you to learn other aspects, like for example, cybersecurity, IoT, data science, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, database programming, website development, all of this will become easy because you can use Python for literally everything. So this is why we're actually having this Python course. But besides that, we also have Python 202. And just to let you know, yeah, all of these courses are also certified. These are certificate courses. Python 202, we have Python for data analysis. We have Python for data analysis majoring in oil and gas. We have AI, artificial intelligence, where we teach you how to use machine learning kits, artificial intelligence with TensorFlow and Keras, how to use human vision interaction, etc. We teach you how to use Python for cybersecurity, to hack into computers, to hack into mobile phones. Uh, we don't teach you black hat hacking, we teach you white hat hacking, how to hack in and secure those devices. That is what we actually teach you. And we also have a certification in data science, where you learn everything from the core concepts of data science, C++, and also IoT. So these are some of the areas of IR 4.0 that we thrive in. So I said it's very good for you to actually spend some time to learn some of the programming languages, or even spend some time, at least 2 to 3 hours a day, to do something. And this is the right time for you to pick up while you're still in university or while you're still young, right? So that's about it. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take. Ali, over to you.
Thank you, Prem. That's a very, very, very interesting presentation. We enjoyed it so much. Um, Let me just go through the comments. Okay, so I do have one comment by Mr. Jerry Chong. Yeah. Can you see the comments at
Sorry,
the banner
let me
down
just
there?
go back. Okay, so
Yes.
what's that again? Interesting point on letting employers know they're willing to learn new tools and technologies. How would you propose that to be done by a fresh grad? Okay, so one of the best ways that I learned is that some of the recruiters and even employers, they don't really look at they only have about 15 seconds to filter through a resume. Okay, so one way of you doing that is just by putting in your GitHub profile. Okay, or let's say if you have done some projects. Okay, let's say if you have done an artificial intelligence project or even a data science project or something, you need to probably either link it to your GitHub profile or anywhere. Like for example, you can, let's say you've built a robot, record it in a YouTube channel and put it up on your resume. And that will actually show the employers, okay, you know what, this guy or this person had actually done this project. Let me go and check it out. So just by putting it in words will not really help so much that you're willing to learn new skills and all of that. But by actually showing them that you have done something, that is a definite evidence on the person's ability. And this is from my personal experience as well. When I filter through resumes, I hardly see anyone linking up their GitHub or their YouTube profile that that shows that they've done something. Okay, but if they have done that, I would definitely go into the profile and actually see what they've done, and most of the time it will be impressive. I hope that helped the question, Jerry.
All right. I do have one question, okay,
Yeah.
if I may. I'm quite interested when you say that one of the skills that the graduates need now is actually the leadership and the teamwork skill. Okay, and being a lecturer myself, okay, I do observe that a lot of the students, okay, most of them, they're not really capable to work in a team, especially when it requires you to work with, individuals from different background. So how do you think, what would be your idea to tackle this
Addressing teamwork,
problem?
yeah. So
Yeah,
my
addressing
pers-
teamwork. How can we, like, I don't know, harness
so my
this?
personal experience on getting them to work in a teamwork is first to actually um, break them up and give them a good non-technical project. Okay, for example, in my class back then, or even in a workplace or something, when I conduct classes or courses, the best way to actually initiate teamwork is by first giving them something that is interesting first, like probably a small game that to get them to actually understand each other in an environment, ice-breaking scenario. Okay, that will actually get them to actually work in a team first. They will actually build rapport there. Okay, it's going to be a very short game, probably even 5-10 minutes of some card games or some polar bear game or something. So that is one thing. All right. Once they have that rapport, then if you give them a project to actually work on, then they will have that that understanding among each other, and they will know that, I've worked with this person before. I'm more comfortable with this person, and I'll be able to work with this person even more. So that is my personal experience, and really most of the time it works. That is just to foster teamwork.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me just go through the questions. There's a question from Sabang Nacha. Okay, I would not attempt to pronounce that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm a solution architect working in telecommunications, specifically data networks. Okay, how do you see the scope of telecommunications changing based on this new technology? Um, I don't really see the scope of telco changing so much in terms of this. We will still need networks and telecommunication to help us communicate with each other. Of course, probably in terms of the technology itself, we are now moving from 4G to 5G. So some of the hardware side may change, okay, and some of the software might change as well. Probably, in the future we won't have this kind of lags anymore. But in terms of using AI, or just like for example using deep reinforcement learning, from my personal understanding, within this telecommunication network, I've had people working on this network routers and all of that, a machine doing that, rather than humans being needing to actually monitor that all the time. So you can have like artificial intelligence or automation taking over this portion and managing those network part. And also the important thing is on the cybersecurity part. I have also worked with a cybersecurity company, consulted them on how we can use artificial intelligence to detect network threats, etc. So I don't see so much of changes in terms of how it works or scope of change, but within that you will see an increase in certain technology used, like for example AI, like I just mentioned, and cybersecurity. So that is my open opinion, Tabang. Thank you for your question.
I do have a few more questions here. Okay, let me just bring it up to the screen. Yeah. Another question from Mr. Jerry Chong.
Thoughts on graduates who do not necessarily work in the area of their studies? Encourage or otherwise? I would definitely encourage them. So I wouldn't say that all graduates will end up in the area where they ended up studying. Uh, like I have had students in the past who have done petroleum engineering, and because oil and gas is in a very bad state, they often end up as working in another industry, either as a management consultant, either going into another field, probably data science, or within engineering itself, they are in probably electrical engineering, or etc. So I don't see that as a problem, because I'm sure that some of you have read this news that some of the big companies have already scraped degree requirements from their job hiring. So they no longer job matching based on what they have studied, but it's more on how are you as an individual, how analytical are you? Can you adapt to new changes? Will you be able to learn as a lifelong process, etc.? So that's a more critical thing. But I'll definitely encourage them.
Okay. Yeah, another question. Yes, another question here by Jerry as well.
Mm-hmm. How did your university experience help you? What was your key takeaway during university that helped? You can help current students completing their degrees now to develop key skills of the future. No problem, Jerry. That's okay. So my university experience, yeah. So I've done my basic degree in Unitan, University Tenaga Nasional, Electrical Electronics, major in artificial intelligence and robotics. So back then, AI wasn't really a thing. Okay, just to be open with you and all of that. But then still, I had the interest in AI and robotics. So I just did my best in whatever I could. And one thing that I did not let go is of my books. Even up to now, I have all my books from my year one, and I have all the notes that I handwritten personally. So whenever I go back and look at it, I will always be able to recall my basic linear algebra from year one, to calculus from year one easily. I can just give myself 1 week from now, and I can learn whatever I've done in the past, like probably 10, 15 years ago, because I still have those books. So that is one thing that I will always recommend. Okay, do not think that whatever you're learning now, you will never use it in the future. You keep those books, because you never know. never know when you may need them. Okay, and another thing is that you, like for example, also do not give up hope that, okay, like for example, let's say if you're learning engineering now, petroleum engineering, you may have interest in that. That is fine. Let's say you get another job in management consulting. That is fine also. Go and work on that just for you to put food on your plate, but also work on something that is of interest to you on your part time. Spend 2 3 hours a day on your engineering on your own side. Okay, make the money, the money you're making from your day job, you put it into your own effort here. So that will be a good experience for you, and that really helped me back then, in 2015 when I was jobless. So that is when I started my own initiative and all of that. And yeah, so I'm in demand now, I can say that.
We do have another question. I believe he's a student of APU.
Okay, I'm a final year student in APU. Seeing through your LinkedIn profile, you've been in industry for quite some time. Any advice for fresh grads? Yes, my advice, again, I would say, is to don't just rely a lot on whatever you've learned. Okay, have an open mind and keep learning new things, because as I say, changes will always happen. Okay, be open to changes, one thing. Keep learning, spend at least 2 to 3 hours a day reading something new and spending time on what you love, on some technical stuffs. And thirdly is, if you don't know any of those latest technology that I spoke about just now, go and learn at least one, because that will help you a lot in the future. These are my advice. Thanks, Jerry.
Any other question? Feel free to fill into the comment box. Anyone with questions? Okay, so I believe that's about it. On behalf of everyone here today, okay, thank you very much, Prem, okay, for speaking to us today. Is there any other last notes that you want to say to us to conclude your talk?
Probably I want to say thank you very much to APU for having me, and thank you to the participants for coming in and spending your time to actually learn something. So my wish to you is all the best to the university and also everyone out there. Because I know that it's going to be a very challenging time right now, but then keep doing what you're doing, and as for the university itself, I know AP will do a tremendous job in terms of introducing new technologies, and if you need any help at any time, do let me know. That's all. I'll be happy to consult.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience. Okay, thank you so much for your support, participation. And yeah, so I'm going to end the broadcast. So yeah, see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.